NFL Combine is going on. We wanted to dive into the draft. Who better to do that with than one of the draft experts over at The Athletic, Nick Baumgardner, who joins us now on the Rude Guest Hotline. Nick, you're on in D.C. We're Grant and Danny here on The Fan. I wanted to start with Sonny Styles, who had a legendary Combine performance yesterday.
Yeah.
He's the same height as Calvin Johnson. He's got the same 40 time as B. John Robinson. He's 8 pounds lighter than Derrick Henry. He's got the same broad jump as Julio Jones. And he's about a half-inch different in terms of vert from LeBron James. And the dude's a 6'5" Mike linebacker. What a freak. I mean, was any of this expected?
That's the crazy part is, yes, like all of it was. I mean, all of it. I don't know what else. Like, I was watching it yesterday, and you're like, he's not surprising anybody. Everybody knew he could do all this stuff. Like, and the difference between Sonny Styles and a lot of the freaky athletes that we've seen over the years, because we've seen some, is he's a good football player. Like, he is very good. Like he's gotten so much better. He's an old safety that moved downhill halfway through his college career, has gotten a lot better with his tackling in general, his ability to diagnose run stuff, and then, he's a fluid coverage player. He is extremely rare. I really don't know what to compare him to other than, he's just like a souped-up version of the biggest, longest middle linebacker you've ever seen. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's one of those things where if you're going to get a linebacker off the board in the top 5, they have to be something like this. They have to be something that we've really never seen before, something that maybe even unlocks, other things or a prototype for that new position. So really cool stuff. I mean, that was, when you compare it like you just did, LeBron vertical, the Calvin, all that stuff, I mean, that really does tell it all.
How worried should we be in Washington that he won't be there at 7 for the Commanders?
Yeah, I'd be worried. I would be worried. I think that both he and Arvell Reese seem like top 5 picks to me. Sonny might have jumped Arvell Reese. I don't know. Arvell Reese can do some more stuff from a pass rush standpoint, or at least he has. But both those guys had terrific combines. And before the combine, the buzz from most scouts was that Sonny Styles was not quite firmly in the top 5, but he was on his way. He was closer to 5 than he was 10. You know what I mean? So he was headed up the charts, and I think that's kind of the expectation now, that if you want to go up there, if you want to get him, you're going to have to be somewhere in the top 5.
Nick Baumgardner at The Athletic with us here on G&D. So what do you think that Styles will be able to do that he maybe wasn't asked to do at Ohio State, like at the next level? Just because I imagine a defensive coordinator going, oh, my God, look at this. Like, turn him loose. What might that look like?
Well, I really think a lot of it ends up being as much about, how many more ways you could use him in coverage, how much more you could use him off the edge, maybe as a blitzer or a pass rusher, even you could line him off the edge and have him just work against the tackle. But to me, it's more about what can I do with the rest of my defense around a guy that can basically play like 2 positions at one time on the field. He never has to sub out. He never has, you can just move people around. You can experiment. We talked all year about how Seattle unlocked what they unlocked with Nicky Manwari at 6'3", 225. Sonny Styles is bigger than that, and he's not much slower. So it's just like there's a lot more, in there with some of these guys that can do some of these things. And what you can do with a guy like that, you can put other guys that maybe don't have as much speed, but they've got some power, or maybe vice versa, right? You could do different things, match it up differently, and just really be a very difficult group for offenses to deal with. And I think that's what it is when I look at a guy like that. Like, he's going to be in the middle of the defense, doing his job, taking care of all the things that a really good middle linebacker would be able to do, plus a lot more that's going to take stuff off the plate of other people for them to also open up and make plays. So I think he'll make his teammates better, and I think he'll be just a problem in general in the middle of any defense he plays in.
So you know how they did this with Travis Hunter last year, where maybe he plays 2 ways? David Bailey ran a 4.5. Is someone going to make him like a receiver also? Like, oh, my God, that dude. Like, I'm in love with him, too.
I know. They're not going to make him a receiver, and, they're not going to get him either. He might be top 3 at this point.
Man.
They're not going to make him a receiver because he's got the best pass rush moves of anybody in this class. Like, that's the extra part with Bailey, is there wasn't anybody close to him in college football this year in terms of move set, diversity of move set, efficiency, consistently beating people that he's supposed to beat, with beating people different ways, right? So I think that, he's a guy that I think it'll be important with. The only knock I've ever heard on David Bailey is he is a quiet guy. He did transfer there at the end. I'm not sure how much it was about business with him, and I don't know, maybe that's a problem. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But everything else has been, he's elite. So he's one, again, that I think that the edges and the linebackers, and even the defensive tackles, that was probably the fastest defensive tackle class the Combine's had in 25 years yesterday. So really good stuff from the defenders in general. But that's not surprising. We expected that. The safeties are running right now, and that's another one. There's some really good ones in that group too.
Nick Baumgardner of The Athletic. So if you're saying Sonny Styles moves into the top 6 and you feel like David Bailey's there too, does that mean Arvell Reese is, I don't want to say sliding because there's no such thing as a board yet, but could he now be there at 7 when 2 through 4 seem to be the range for him for a couple of months?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with him. I really am, because I think that, everyone expected Sonny Styles to do what he did. I think everyone expected Arvell Reese to run the way that he ran. But the explosive numbers were good. They weren't like off the charts good. They weren't, crazy like Styles were. I think we expected more of a freaky performance there. And then when you really start to get into it, it's kind of it's not the same thing as what Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, there were off the field concerns about his attitude and everything else. That's why he fell when he fell. Some of it was we don't know what to do with him or play him. We don't know where to play him back then. A lot of teams didn't know how to think outside the box. Dan Quinn thankfully was able to, and then away we go. So this is not that. It's not the same thing as that. He's a good kid. He's just young and hasn't really done much yet. So he could slide, but I really 7 feels like that feels like it would be a heck of a steal. You know what I mean? That feels like it would be guys tripping over themselves trying to hand the card in. But crazier things have happened. The Lions got Penei Sewell like 8 at one time. So stuff happens.
We did a topic yesterday based on a Daniel Jeremiah comment where he said he thought Bailey and Reese and Bain possibly were all gone by 7. He said he thought it was better than a 50% chance. So in a world where that is the case, let's say, and it's hard to work the math that Styles would be as well if Mendoza's going, but let's just say that's the case. And now you're debating between, if you're Washington, you still want an edge, going to that second tier, or a Caleb Downs maybe at safety, or just taking the best player on the board, Jeremiah Love, to get a weapon for Daniels. What would you do if you were them?
To me, I go to the best player, which is Downs. I've done that a few times when I've mocked pretty much the same scenario that you're talking about, where I look at it and I say he's the best. I think Caleb Downs is the best football player in the draft. I mean, pure football player. He's not the biggest. There's not going to be any crazy metric numbers with him coming out. He'll run well, but there's not going to be a whole lot of that stuff. It'll be good. It won't be like jaw-dropping. But in terms of the tape, which is what overrules all this stuff, because Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese both have things they need to work on their game, even if they are elite athletes. Downs has been the best football player in the country, I think, on the defensive side for 2 years. He's one of the smartest safeties I think we've seen in a decade. I think he can play 3 or 4 spots in the secondary, could be a big nickel, is an outstanding tackler, maybe the best pound-for-pound tackler in the class, and a guy that I just think if you're a team that cares about it and wants to get better at it, you can put him in the back end of your defense, and it helps change the culture, and it helps change the things that you can do, how you can match up with people. And I know that safety position scares people, but he is an outstanding football player that there's no way he's not going to be good. That's one of those things with him where I would just be shocked if he's not a good football player. Pretty surprised if he's not a great one. So that's where I would go with that one.
Where are you on arm length gate?
Arm length. Well, I mean, with Bain, I think it is significant. I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's everything, obviously. Like, he still was able to, as we see on the tape. And that's the thing. The tape supersedes everything. What you do on your tape is really what you're being judged on. The other information, like arm length, is just stuff that just gives people pause for concern that they have to look deeper into. The one thing with Ruben Bain, I don't think Ruben Bain is going to be a top 5 draft pick. I did not think that was going to happen because of this right here. I think he's got short arms. It's going to scare some people off. But I would be pretty shocked if he's making it past 15 based on all the intensity and the effort he plays with and everything else. And if you talk to some scouts that think he is more of a 3-tech, they're like, I don't care. I'll play him in there and we'll see what happens. Like, I think that there's still a lot of, hope that he's going to be a really good player. Just, I think some of the hype and the buzz in the college season that the fans and media kind of thought he was a top 3 guy. I think that was just off. And I think that might be settling now and people are kind of seeing it.
How good do you think Jeremiah Love is?
I think he's great. I think he is a guy that is another one that, if I was going to rank 5 players, 6 players, whatever it is, just regardless of position, he would be in it. I think he was the best individual playmaker in college football last year. He was my Heisman pick. No offense to Fernando Mendoza, who's great, but I thought Jeremiah Love was more important to what his team needed, and he can do everything. He's the true 3-down weapon. the legit receiver who is not just, I can catch it on a swing route out of the backfield. Like, he can go line up in the slot and beat a safety or defensive back if he has to. Just elite across the board. I think he's a guy that if you get him in the right team and the right system, like I've looked at him for Kansas City, I think that would be outstanding. Just on so many levels, he could be, a Pro Bowler pretty quickly and one of those guys who just helps change your offense. Kind of like what Gibbs and Bijan maybe have been able to do in their respective positions.
I love Cornell Tate, but I know that there's not a consensus there for the best receiver in this class. Where are you at on him and this receiver group?
Yeah, I really like all of them, and the top three there especially. It's a good group in general, but you got Tate, Jordan Tyson, and Mekhi Lemon from USC there. I think all three of them are going to be good players in the NFL. I'm with you. I think Cornell Tate's the guy out of that group. He has been for me. Tyson, I get a little worried about the injury history. Jordan Tyson is probably the most complete player right now in terms of the ability to do everything. He can play any position, outstanding blocker. Really polished, all that stuff. He has had a lot of injuries, and that is cause for concern. But Tate, physically, is just everything you're looking for. He's huge, 6'3", 200+, but more important, he's the big guy that runs like the small guy. He can play in the slot, he can run around, you can motion him, he'll block, he'll get up in the air, he can separate. I think he pushed himself last year, it seemed to me, to stand out opposite Jeremiah Smith as much as he could, because Jeremiah Smith is just an absolute monster. Everybody knows that, and it's hard to stand out opposite him, and I think he did. And I think that I've had him as a top 10 pick for quite a while. I think he's a terrific player and one that would be hard to ignore if you have a need there at receiver.
The only guy we haven't asked about that I do think comes up a lot for Washington and mocks, when people want to do something kind of off the grid or get cute, is Mansour Delane, the corner from LSU, who we have a little file on here because he played at Virginia Tech before that in our backyard. But is he a top 10 caliber corner? Is that a pick in terms of value that you'd like? The argument I have against it is they just went with Durante Jones to run the Brian Flores defense. Right. And I feel like part of the reason you do that is so you don't have to spend huge or go top 10 at corner.
I think that, number one, would be my driving factor with that one. And then number two, that is a little rich for my blood with Delane. There are some people that you talk to that have him in the top 10. They think he's a top 10 player. And I think it's becoming more of a consensus that he's CB1 here in this draft. And I think that's probably accurate. He's been the best. I mean, you guys know that Virginia Tech. He was a terrific man coverage corner there, before he went to LSU. And when he gets to LSU, he was actually, one of the only things there that didn't fall apart all of last season. He was super consistent, very confident player. I don't think he's running here, which I think that could have maybe helped some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's a little high for me in that one. That's kind of the case with all the corners. I'm not sure if there's any corner I would go for in the top 10 this year. For that, it's the same conversation as you're having with kind of Sonny Styles to a degree, where it's like the guy's got to be elite. When Devin Witherspoon comes out or Sauce Gardner, okay, I got it. But that's not in this class. So I think that's where I would land on that one.
Nick, I'm always interested with people that live and breathe this thing. Who are you higher on than it seems like everybody else is, and who are you lower on than maybe everybody else is? Yeah,
there's a couple defensive tackles that I'm a big fan of that I think people maybe are starting to come around or at least get more on, see it the same way I do. Like Lee Hunter from Texas Tech, I think he's amazing. He was just so good all year, just walked right in the door after playing underneath football, like group of five ball for the last couple of years, and was just elite. Dominique Orange, Big Citrus, is the other one there from Iowa State, who I just, every time I've watched the tape on him, I think he's a guy that's probably a little better than maybe a third-round pick that a lot of people end up seeing on him. And then when I look, you just mentioned Delane. I think that is one of the corners in general for me are the ones where I tend to go back on a little bit. There's not a lot of, they're good, like Jermod McCoy, the kid from Tennessee, had a great year in 2024 when he was a sophomore, and then didn't play as a junior. So it's like, I don't know. And he's not going to run at the combine. The corners give me more pause this year. I feel like a lot of people I've seen that put them out there. So that's probably the area that I would look at.
Will there be another quarterback taken in round one other than Mendoza?
I think it could be Ty Simpson. It depends on how teams feel about him after these meetings and how he throws. I think he's going to do everything at the combine, or at least he should. And, that's going to be the whole thing. Like if teams are comfortable enough with him and they have the right situation where maybe he doesn't have to come in right away, maybe he can wait a little bit and you can ease him in. But that's the conversation. It's a lot like it was with Jackson Dart. If he's going to be taken in the first round, I think it's going to be at the bottom of it. Maybe with the team trading up, that kind of thing, to try to sneak back into it if they really like him. But if not, I definitely think he could be a candidate similar to what we saw with Will Levis that one year, where you just wait you think he's a first-round talent, but you're not quite sure if he can do it. So let's just wait, get him in the second round, get him on a contract like that. I think that might be what we end up seeing. But it's about 50-50. I really don't know how it's going to go.
Really appreciate the time, man. Great insight. Have an awesome weekend.
All right, guys, you bet.
Go check out Nick's work at The Athletic. Nick Baumgardner joining us here on Grant and Danny. That was outstanding.